Have you been on Get Vocal?
I haven't, because I don't know. I'm still like somehow thinking somehow I'm going to steal the IP from those guys and start it over again because it was such a great idea the way they did it.
Yeah,
It reminds me of the Commodore Amiga. They had something incredibly wonderful, but had no idea how to make it work.
that's always how it is. All right, so we're live on LinkedIn. Is this your first time on LinkedIn Live?
You
Oh,
talking me?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Let's see here. I want to make sure it's
All
up
right, figure
on
this out here.
Facebook. That's the problem. You're going to 50 million different destinations. And,
Hey, you've always been kind of the king of hitting everything that had any kind of encoder receiver on it.
well, there's certain people that like to do it, and then there's certain people that realize the challenge behind it, which is making sure all the feeds are working. But then it's the whole monitoring the chat issue, right? So, yeah. So if you guys are joining us, we have a special guest today, and we'll explain why we have a special guest today and why it wasn't advertised that we had a special guest today. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. But
There's always a story.
there is a story, so we'll explain that. But right now, if you guys wouldn't mind going to the Facebook, the Telestream Wirecast page on Facebook, and share the live video out, that would be fantastic. Those of you joining on LinkedIn Live, welcome. Those on YouTube, appreciate you guys stepping in. So we're just kind of doing we're doing our shares here. I got 50 computers in front of me. Not really, but I have at least 3 in front of me. So we brought in the big guns today. We got Jeff Fitzgerald, Jeff and High Def. So we got all the TV personalities on here. I'm just gonna facilitate this. I got like I said, I got the big guns today.
Here we go.
Got the influencers on here today.
You didn't say the I word, did you?
I did say the I word. I hate the I word. No. So we're gonna have a good time today because I know this is a subject that I know a lot of you guys have asked about, is the whole guest phenomena. Like, what do I do? How do I do it? What's the best way to do it? And hopefully we're gonna give you kind of some insight on what not to do. No. We've kind of got this nailed, I think. I think we've done a pretty good job. And of course, Jeff, we'll have you tell a little bit for those that lived under a rock and have no idea who you are. We'll kind of give you an opportunity to tell people that. And how long you've been in TV and all that good stuff. So right now, for anybody that's wondering, we're on the Telestream pages on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. We're also on my personal brand, The Tech Buzz. We're on my Daily Motion channel. We're on my YouTube channel. We're on Daily Bit Gravity, which is on my website, which also feeds my Roku app and my Fire TV app. So you guys can watch it live if you download the TTB Network Roku app or Fire TV app. You can watch this from the comfort of your television set and interact in any chat room that you so choose to do. We are working on a chat room for Discord. Jeff, I don't know if you use Discord at all.
No, I haven't.
So we have a chat room. I think Marty has a link for it that he can always put in all the different chat rooms. If you want to join that and just kind of camp out in that room, that's great too. So it doesn't matter what video feed you watch. We can at least see the comments neutral. Like I have a monitor in front of me for that. The other thing you can do is if you're really good with Discord, you can search On Social in Discord, look up Telestream, and then On Social. You should be able to join. But we're going to get this started. Oh, you got a couple guys over here. Hey, Brad. Hey, Brad, can you also monitor the YouTube chat? I've got Facebook and LinkedIn open. I think Marty has Facebook and LinkedIn. But if you can do the Telestream, if you go to youtube.com/TelestreamTube, and if somebody has a question there, just kind of dump it into either Facebook or Facebook or LinkedIn so we can kind of see it. And we'll also have the Discord chat open.
I just posted Discord chat on Facebook.
Awesome.
And I'll do the same thing on LinkedIn.
Cool. Awesome. Hey, what's up, Tom? What's up, Crinder? So, Kirk, welcome. Kirk George over on LinkedIn, welcome. Misty, welcome. Brad, welcome. All you guys that are jumping in here. We're gonna have a good time today. It's just been has it been a crazy week for everybody?
Yes.
I've kind of been
absolutely.
I've kind of been in a slump. I can't believe I'm saying this publicly, but I'm gonna say this. I'm reaching the end of my 30s. Tomorrow is Friday. It's the last day of my 30s. And Saturday I officially become a 40-year-old.
No way.
I hit the big 40. I'm getting older. It kind of scares me a little bit.
You'll be fine. You'll survive.
They say it's the new 30 anyways, right? Isn't that what they say?
Yeah. You know what? It's funny, Steven. It's like for me, you know what the worst age for me was? 30.
Really?
I don't know what it is. 40 nothing, 50 nothing. Not a big deal.
40 just kind of has me nervous because it's like, dang, man, I've lived almost half my life.
Right.
Because I'm expecting
best is yet to come.
I'm expecting to live to 100, so that's why I said, you know, that's the plan. But no, you know, you look back and wow, 40 years. I remember when I was 16.
It goes by quick.
It does, especially when you got kids, man. Jeez. So
Preto says life is over. So
what's that? Oh, Preto's
according to John Preto, life is over now. So.
Oh, life is over. Okay, it's all downhill.
Downhill.
We can do a GoFundMe to get you some gray hair.
Well,
there you go.
I do have gray hair. I just have ways of making it so I don't have gray hair.
I turned 54 last Saturday. Yeah, I understand that comment.
Okay, so I don't feel as bad then. Sorry, Jeff.
No.
You don't look 54 though.
You
don't look 54 though.
Yeah, you know, it's the Studio 54 part of it that works for me, right?
Oh my goodness!
I found my polyester vibe again, right?
There it is.
There you go.
So yeah, so I've been watching a lot of different things with E3. I know that's really big right now, so I've been kind of checking that out. You guys know I have the arcade, and there's some really cool arcades that they just brought out from different companies. So kind of getting excited. I won't see them till November. They won't hit the stores or anything till then, but so I've kind of had my attention preoccupied from tech. I know there was some different tech stuff that came out, but I was just like, I've been focused on Xbox and PS4 or the new PS.
Oh, the esports thing is just blowing up.
Oh my goodness, it's incredible.
Yep.
I find it amazing that kids will not go out and ride bikes, but they'll play games where they're teams of people who cycle. It's just amazing, you know.
Right.
All right, looks like we're at that time. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this party started here, guys. So we want to make sure we honor our audience here, and we're going to get started here with this. So we're going to go silent, going to get the intro going, and let's rock and roll. Hey guys, welcome to another edition of On Social. I'm your host, Stephen Haywood, and I am the Wirecast marketing manager here for Telestream. And we do this show to kind of help you get the most professional video that you can out there on social media, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever your favorite social network is. And I'm joined, barely, but I'm joined today by my co-host, Marty McPadden from podjam.tv. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. It was touch and go there for a second, but I did make it.
He did make it, and we weren't sure if he was going to make it, so we enlisted the help of another pro because we know you guys love pros, and so this show would just not be fitting without having this guest on at least a couple times. Maybe we'll enlist him more. But we've got Mr. Jeffrey Fitzgerald, Jeff in high def, as you guys may
Hello.
know. Welcome.
Hey, it's awesome to be here. I'm the Bubby Brister to John Elway, so glad I could be backup quarterback here for a couple minutes, at least in one quarter of the game. So
Don't look at yourself as a backup quarterback. You're definitely you're up there with the rest of us. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
yeah, no, it's awesome to be here, Steve. I know you and I first connected on a small little platform called Blab that seems to be the buzzword everybody still remembers from 2015. Marty, I know you and I connected there as well. And am 35 years doing broadcast and now online video. I do a lot of live stream work with different clients, produce some television PSAs, pretty much a mix between everything. And obviously, this is my love is the wonderful ability for anybody to put themselves in front of a camera, find the confidence that they need to speak their voice and to do it where the world can hear you. And we're in that moment now, and it's only going to get better.
No, it's you have a pretty good website here if anybody wants to see. You do a lot with not just the fire department. I mean, you have a lot of things that you're doing on the side with different clients, correct?
Yeah, I do. Actually, most of my work has been outside of the fire rescue system, but I've been in as a support member in the fire system in my county since 2001. It was 9/11 that actually made me realize that even though I wasn't an operational firefighter, I had the ability through marketing and media to tell their story in a way that would really show what these heroes really look like. And over the years, I've kind of found myself moving into leadership roles. And the last 2 years, just this past December, I handed off the reins of our local fire station where I was the president for 2 years. And I'm actually this. It's funny we're even talking about this because I've actually made a pivot here in the last couple weeks, where I'm actually beginning to do more media specifically for the fire rescue system nationally. And a lot of that comes off of doing a PSA for the North Carolina Association of Fire Chiefs that's airing throughout North Carolina right now, and it's just had a wonderful effect. And it's speaking vision into an area where I think vision's been lost. Volunteerism in general, we know is waning in certain ways, and so I'm really thankful to have an opportunity to have some small voice and trying to get people to realize what a wonderful thing it is to be part of your local fire system. In that, in anything you're able to do, especially what we're doing here, if you're watching, you've got an interest in this. This is the kind of thing you can do to capture your fire system and help tell their story. And so I think it's a great mix between the two things that I love very, very passionately.
Absolutely. And so today, with talking about being having guests on, you guys see that we've got two guests on it, and it was just fitting. Marty had called me earlier today. You had a family emergency. Fortunately, you were able to get back. Um, but we wanted to make sure that we gave you a good show. So Jeff had asked a few weeks ago. He said, "Hey, listen, man, if you need any help, if you want a guest, let me know." Well, I cashed in that favor chip, so so Jeff was able to join us. But it's good because with all this bringing on social media, live video, professional is everybody wants to bring a guest on. So there, hopefully, we can give you some different tips on this. Somebody in the LinkedIn chat asked about, and I'm going to paraphrase it because it's going to be hard to read over there. But they said, as the host, could you do the same screen without in ears, and because if you have people in the same studio as you, would you really need in ear monitors? And I personally, I would still use in ear monitors, even at least an earpiece. It helps. It helps with the volume levels, so you can make sure that you're not overdriving your guests, whether they're in studio or out of studio. I think we could all probably agree we all wear some form of in-ear bud, or have our speakers set up with a mix minus, which we can get into way later in these types of shows. Um, Marty, we'll start with you and kind of what's your take on that question?
Yeah, I mean, even if you're remote, you have to, because you're relying on getting the return audio to interact with your guests. But even if you're in the same studio, what ends up happening is you'd be amazed, even though you're maybe having a normal conversation and you think you can hear each other just normally, but you're in a studio, it's kind of a weird environment, and you'd be surprised. You may not be able to hear every word from the host or the guest or people you're on set with. So wearing the in-ear monitor is very, very important, just so you to make sure that you're actually hearing what's going on. And plus, if you have any kind of crew or technical crew, that's how they're going to communicate with you in your ear. Many times, if you're watching, say, cable news, and they have an anchor on the anchor desk, they're getting their instructions through their ear. Not only of that, but they're listening to the other guests, and it takes all that guesswork out of it. So I would highly recommend. I think most professional studios still have the in-ear monitors. I'm sure Jeff, you probably run into the same situation, but definitely whether it's in studio or remote guests, I think is a good way to go.
Yeah.
It is. I was actually the guy that would be yelling in the host ear on a show a lot of times, and it's incredibly valuable, especially in the world that we're in. Even though that we're not in traditional TV studios today, where we're doing shows like this, what it does is, to me, the biggest value for an in-ear monitor is that it eliminates the audio problems that can come where you cannot really in a minute figure out where they're happening. Feedback with three people, it's like, well, who's doing it? That kind of thing. And if you just think about it, it's a speaker. If you have room speakers and it's going back into your microphone, you're just creating a loop that's going to get louder and louder until you have feedback. And Marty, you make a great point about being able to hear yourself. Not only does it help you hear, I think in a lot of ways it actually helps you isolate the focus of the conversation, whereas you might be distracted with a lot of other things going into a show. And so, absolutely, if you can do it, I mean, I'm wearing the old typical IFB cable, and it doesn't matter. You can wear earbuds, anything that will work to give you that ability. And I think it's absolutely something that will eliminate a lot of the trouble that you may find yourself in without it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with, like you said, with having guests on, like you said, you can isolate things. So you heard it from all of us here. We definitely recommend doing that. So one of the first topics for today is guest etiquette. This is something we've kind of touched on in other shows, but we wanted to kind of come back to this because we actually had some people leave comments about this. What are some of the things that you guys hold your guests to, or even Marty and Jeff, when you're producing shows for people? How do you set the stage for people to basically teach their guests how they should be on camera? I mean, if anybody that's watched these shows in the last 4 weeks, this is the fourth episode, has seen that when we're on camera, you don't see us here kind of doing this or picking up our cups and drinking and taking sips of water. We kind of do that off camera to kind of keep that professionalism. And I think just little things like that. Do you pass that on? We'll start with Jeff. Do you pass that on to your guests, or is that something that you just kind of hope that they get, or are you just really not too concerned about stuff like that?
No, I actually am very concerned about it. Clarity is your friend when you want a show to go the way you intend for it to go. And I've had the unfortunate pleasure of having to tell people in the studio while we're recording. And the show I did was live to tape. It would be recorded live, but then would air a day later. Um, I had a gentleman who had a very elegant but nice comb over that he had a single hair that was floating out like this, and it was embarrassing to have to say something. But I had to stop a segment and say, "Sir, we need to fix this because it's better in that small room of 20 for us to deal with it than it going out to thousands and thousands of people." In that in that situation, our makeup director had actually worked with him, and I think had we told him ahead of time, maybe just to some of the things we're looking for, whether it be like how you appear. Another thing is what you're wearing. Don't wear plaid patterns and things like that. Whether it's hair or dress or just the where the conversation should go. I think those things are very important to communicate to the people that you're trying to get a response out of, because as a producer you're not just looking for, I'm going to throw a question to the universe and I hope to get back some answer. If you're a good producer, you know pretty much what that answer should be in some level. While you're not pre-scripting it, you would expect a course of navigation for the conversation, and if you can do that, where the magic of that happens is before the show starts, sitting someone down and saying, look, this is what we're thinking about. We're not going to give you the exact questions because we want it to be natural, but we want to start by talking about your background. That we want to talk about the amazing contribution you've made to the world of cancer research, and from there we want to talk about what you think the future of immunotherapy is. You're setting a course for a conversation. Now you're giving somebody kind of some stones to step on, and they now know okay, I know that I'm not going to get anything out of left field, and and we can kind of keep it in a narrow way there. But
No, that's that's awesome, because that's kind of how I get very anal retentive when it comes to certain things with that. Or people that we talked about this, Marty, a couple weeks ago, about people playing with their microphone the whole time that they're doing a
Hmm.
broadcast. It drives me nuts. Um, what about you, Marty? When you're producing for your clients, what instructions do you give them?
Yeah, to tack on what Jeff makes some really good points, right? Most of the time, what I find is a lot of the clients, unless they're hosts, unless they're doing regular shows, and they get better over time. But mainly when you're dealing with guests, and they may not be used to being on camera or being on a microphone, don't assume that they know anything at all. They're usually more concerned about their content and what they're presenting. They're nervous to begin with, and they're not thinking about the 80 different things that they need to think about. So what I always do is always have a test. I kind of present it as a technical test, but also do it as a production test. So I'm coaching in various ways. So if mainly they're usually just on a webcam, and if they have a mic, that's great. Lots of times they don't, but just camera position, coaching them if they're on a laptop, and usually I'm working with guests that just have a webcam on a laptop, raising that laptop up to eye level, the importance of camera position, and instead of having it down on the desk and looking down, being in a well lit room. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but just evenly lit. Making sure that you're not against the bright light source, so you have a silhouette. All those kind of things, or camera position where the head's toward the top of the frame is important. All those things, that are important, that they can think about, that to get used to it, and to kind of give them a dry run or a run through, and get them used to it and get them comfortable. Once they're comfortable with the technical setup, then my job is to make it easy, and then they can concentrate on the content and have a nice, easy conversation, get that nervousness out of the way. But yeah, there's a lot to it. And like just how you have us set up in the 3 box here, we got on early, you set us all up. The head sizes are all the same. I mean, we're sending you good signal. Also looking in the camera.
Uh-huh.
One of the big, I don't know, Jeff, I don't know about you, but one of the big challenges I have with clients and guests is teaching them to look in the camera and not look at the monitor like I'm doing here, right? So my
totally,
monitor's down
yeah,
here, monitor's over here, camera's over here, and you'll see this on cable news where they'll even be in the same studio and they do a multi-box shot. That you could tell the director in the ear saying, "Look in the camera." If they're hosts, they already know that,
Hmm.
but that's why they look in the camera, because they're talking to you. They're not talking to each other, and then they can turn and talk
that's
to
right.
each other. So that's and looking in the camera, I think if I had to pick one thing, that's probably the hardest thing for most people to get used to. Yeah, I got to look in the camera. I'm looking at the side of my eye at you guys, but I'm looking at the camera because I'm talking to the folks that are watching us. So it's just getting the use of that stuff. It's a completely different setup than having a normal conversation, but it's not difficult. And once they do that and they practice, they get better and better. And then they kind of see the importance of it.
And that's where professional video really comes in. Where you want to have professional video, you have to make sure you understand those concepts, right? Jeff, you were going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say he's spot on with that. It's the one thing that in the world of live streaming today that you rarely see is especially a host that can keep their eye on the camera for the most part. I mean, obviously, we're now in a world where we're doing our own directing and graphics and all these other things, and you have to reach for this and that kind of thing. But I think sometimes it gets. I'm old school, so for me it gets a little distracting. I mean, I would rather somebody be looking in the camera. And Marty makes another excellent point about just positioning. If I'm back here, I don't have nearly the amount um, of human impression as if I was actually up here a little closer.
Hmm.
Small little movements like that, that's literally a foot and a half difference, can be the difference between you being seen as somebody of prominence and have some sort of a say in that conversation digitally, or maybe just a peripheral member, that kind of thing. And so it's amazing. Every one of these little things in aggregate is what really equals what we like to call broadcast TV. But in reality, it is really taking the attention and the focus on each one of these areas individually, doing the best you can with them. And you'll see over time that garden's going to grow, and you're going to find that you're making some really good content as you go, both technically and creatively.
I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize is one of the other points that we have here in our notes is somebody had brought up about the headphones earlier. And I kind of want to go back to that is because it's not just the camera positioning. It's we had this discussion, some people are like, "Well, how come you're not using the over-ear mics or the lav mics?" Every one of us, all three of us are using a desk mic and we have it set up a little bit different than each other. But Jeff, am I correct? Because we know what Marty and I was reason for doing it. Am I correct in assuming you'd rather have the better audio quality and kind of stash it off the side of the camera than to put one of those over-the-ear mics on for this type of application?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've got great lav mics. I've got a nice headset mic I use when I'm DJing Relay for Life for 12 hours tomorrow, and so I've got microphones for different things. But nothing beats having that large diaphragm microphone if you want to have that impression. And why is this important to the three of us here? Because we all have realized that the visual part of the conversation is only part of the conversation. When you have a voice that it sounds robust, that sounds full, it's got this more bass to it. People are going to listen to you a little bit more. And it's one of these things where, again, it's all about nonverbal communication. How can you make a statement when you come into a show without having to say anything? Well, number one is it's excellent audio and excellent video, but those who have been working in media for a while know that audio is what's everything. Video, you can always cover it up. We can go to video blocks and find a little piece of video to cover something up with, but you can't do that with audio. And so one thing I will say, to just kind of put an asterisk next to that, that I'm not a fan of people that like to hide behind their microphone.
Yes.
I think if you're going to have a microphone, it's great to have it. If you want it in the shot a little bit, that's great too. But I think that the more confident you get, you're going to kind of come out from behind that eclipse of the Yeti, and be able to tell your story in a way that's going to be a lot more vibrant and fun, because it's not about the microphone. It's a status symbol, I think, a lot of times in podcasting and things like that. But the reality is, you're the status symbol, and it's what you're contributing through that microphone. It's just a delivery medium.
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of what we were saying. We have our microphones here, but you can still see our face, right? We're not
Right.
hiding behind it like this, and you're doing where you
There you
can't see our
go.
mouth is moving. You're 100% right. I mean, that's
Let me add one more point on having a decent microphone, and it doesn't have to be something like the Heil PR40. It could be anything that gives a decent result. But if you're doing a live video show or a streaming video show or even a tape one, many times, since podcasting's so popular, you want to be able to, repurpose that content for audio podcasting. So if people are consuming your content just audio, then you're going to want that audio quality, to be top notch. And you might as well, while you're producing, try to have the best audio you possibly can, and using a large diaphragm dynamic microphone in a non-studio environment usually delivers pretty good quality.
mhm.
It doesn't have to be, there's other ones there, but that's one of the reasons why you may want to use a mic like this versus maybe a different type of microphone, because of the repurposing thing. So
Absolutely, and especially with us here with this show on social. Once we hit 6 episodes, we're going to put this out on iTunes. We're going to have it out on Google Play, and it's going to be available in audio and video format. So we want you guys, the users. Some of you guys don't always get to watch the video. We want you to be able to listen to it on your way to work when you're stuck in a traffic jam going down the freeway. And be able to pull it up on your podcast and go, man, I can listen to this and I can visually see what they're talking about without actually seeing the video. And that's kind of a goal of a good storyteller when doing a broadcast. And I see Anna Mickelgard in the LinkedIn chat, and she says, true, I usually listen only to different shows. Sound is more important. And I think you'll find that with a lot of people, that sound or audio, if your ears are getting fatigued listening to a show, it doesn't matter what kind of effects, what kind of backgrounds these people have. I shut them off. I can't watch it. I mean, is that, you guys feel the same way?
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
I don't think that's being snobby. I think that's really a mark of the content that you're watching or listening to is not delivering. And Marty, excellent point that I didn't think about podcasting. You're right. If you're going to be doing podcasting, having the better microphone is absolutely critical to that.
Yeah.
yeah, and I'll point out this, and this is something that sometimes, it's a challenge to get across to new clients, especially clients that are new to podcasting and want to do a good job. It's the presentation you put out there. It's that first impression. it doesn't mean that you have to spend $1 million and wait till everything's perfect and go out there. Do the best you can with what you have. Make your best. As long as you're making your best effort in your mind, you're doing your best effort. That's important. But I can't tell you overemphasize the importance of putting your best foot forward, your best impression. Think of it as if you're going on a job interview. You're going to show up. You're not going to show up all looking shabby, and you're going to show up putting your best impression forward, so that when someone sees you for the first time, they say, "Oh, this is someone I want to listen to," and then they give your content a chance.
Yep.
Because if they come across you or if they listen to you and the audio is all bad, crackling, echoey or whatever it is, you may never get that chance for them to give your content a chance. And you might have the best content in the world, but if you're not getting that chance by that audience, then you're kind of wasting your time. So putting your best foot forward is so key, and then you can go from there. At least you get that chance where people are actually gonna give your content a chance.
And that's a good point with coaching also. When you're doing these shows for social media and you're trying to get up, and maybe it's your first time you're having a guest on. Listen, it doesn't matter if it's the first time you're having your guest on or if it's the thousandth or millionth time. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 12 years now. I've had guests on since almost day one, whether it was just audio only or if it was video and audio. And I've used every platform out there known to man to bring guests on. I still, and these guys can attribute to this and attest to this, is today we got ready about 20 minutes before the show. I got them on, make sure everybody was able to connect, everybody was able to get on. We made sure audio was what we thought was perfect to our ears, and we made sure that everybody was situated. Lower thirds were stated correctly. I went like this to Jeff. I said, "Hey, Jeff, does that look right to you?" And he's like, "Well, actually, yeah, you got to change some letters in my name. You find out you had a typo. It happens, but you give the guest an opportunity to proofread what you've done in the lower third. And, I'll say that to Marty from time to time because things switch around. And I think that doing a pre-show, in my opinion, I've always done at least a half-hour pre-show. Marty, we'll start with you. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, preparation's everything. I always call it my 90-10 rule, where 90% of the work is done before you even hit air, and including what people don't see. That's the 10% that people see, that people get confused with. They think that's the entire pie, or that's the entire show. It's really the 90% before that, and even a little bit after that, post show. But it's that preparation. We talked a little bit before we came on air about having a backup plan and all that. I was kidding around with Jeff. Jeff is a television professional. He knows about backup plans. A lot of the work in TV, people never see, because you hope you don't have to implement a backup plan. But the reason why you have it is to make sure that you have a smooth show. So in this case, Stephen, with this show, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it today. You called Jeff. Jeff was total pro. He was ready to come on. And then I was able to make it, and we just made it a three-way show, but you had that plan already to go. You had three different things you could do, and you just, okay, we're going to go with plan C. Boom, ready to go. But the other two plans you didn't have to deal with, but you had it ready to go. So I think that's the most important thing. I think when people start getting into this, they don't realize the amount of work that has to happen before anybody sees anything from you. And the more work you put into it, the better the result on screen. Like, we just come on here. We just don't come on here and do this. You're sending the notes around. We're preparing. We make sure our setup is good. There's a lot of work ahead of time to make this look good and to make it sound good and know what we're talking about. So I think that's the biggest surprise, I think, for a lot of people, the amount of pre-work that goes into this stuff.
And poor Jeff, he was looking over the notes at lunchtime. So, I mean, kudos to
Right.
Well, it's funny, guys, because Marty, you're so right about that. I mean, we're living in the era now where you'll watch a CNN story about, let's say, something that happened in France or Germany, and who are they interviewing? They're interviewing another reporter, and that now is kind of the norm. But that originated out of, Bob. We were going to get this guy, and he can't show up, and he's stuck in DC traffic. You're going to sit in, and we'll have a conversation with you. And so, if you're producing your show, no matter what level it is, whether it's a more broadcast style show like this, or if you're even just using your iPhone and you've got a plan to speak to a realtor friend, you're going to talk and do an open house, always have a backup plan. If you really are going to count on that guest being the majority of your content, and you're not planning additional content, you want to make sure you've got somebody in your back pocket that can fill that void in a moment's notice, because you'll use them at some point.
And I don't want anybody to think, and I know Jeff was kind of kidding around earlier, like he was saying like, oh, I'm third string, but in reality, I didn't just go around and just look for a replacement. I wanted somebody that was a pro. I wanted somebody that knows what he's doing. That because we're in that position where, hey, this is crunch time. This is something I need somebody to be ready. Basically, Jeff, it was like an hour. Like you had an hour to get things, to way he looks fantastic now. I can't have somebody that I have to coach and set up and get things ready. I need somebody that can jump in there that's a pro. And I think as people start wanting to get more professional video, you need to have a stable of people that you can pull from in the event catastrophe happens. So even just like us, it's a company doing this show. Um, we have Marty. Marty rarely misses. I mean, even me, we have to be dying or something, from sickness. But even at that, it's one of those things where you have to have somebody that could stand in because family emergencies happen. There's nothing in life that says you're guaranteed, right? So, I think that that's
Yeah,
something to have. Yes.
you do, Steve. You have to have a plan, no matter what it is. And I appreciate the kind words about, professional, and we hear that a lot in different, ways, especially when you've been doing it for a while. But let's really define what that is. A professional is somebody who started as a non-professional and has stuck with it with some dedication, some education, and some passion to say, you know what, I think I can get where I want to go with this. And one day you find that you're able to do it. And this is probably a crazy analogy, but it reminds me of Adobe Photoshop, because I started using Adobe Photoshop in 1993, and I don't consider myself an expert in it, but what I do know is my head doesn't hurt anymore. You get to the point as a professional or somewhere in that neighborhood where you begin to get the knack for it. You're like, I got this down. I kind of know what that cadence looks like. And I would say that, the more that you do, no matter what level you're at, the better you're going to be. And I have friends in Hollywood that run a writing studio, and this is pretty common in script writing, but they talk about, you're going to have to just throw up your first script or throw up your first podcast, I guess, in this case, or show. You basically know that it's not going to be what you want it to be, but you're going to do it anyway. You're going to put it out there and have some thick skin, take the good content, the good constructive parts of it, dust off your shoulder, like I taught my daughter as a kid, for the stuff that you don't really need to hear. Keep moving, keep your vision where you want it, and you can do it. It's not something that only select people do. We're in this particular conversation because this has been what we've done as our lifeblood here for so many years. But we're in a world now where everybody with a phone can be a content creator. The difference is, don't confuse the technology with the technique, because that's where you're going to get lost, because just putting a picture on a screen is not enough these days. You're competing with every video above and below you on a timeline, and you have to understand that if you don't, you're not going to get any views.
Absolutely.
I always say anybody can buy a hammer. It takes a professional to really know how to use it, and that takes practice and time, patience, constant learning. Like what you were saying, it's a constant state of learning this stuff. It always changes, and enjoy it. If you really want to do this, enjoy the journey, enjoy the learning. I've been doing this for a long time, Jeff. You've been doing it for decades. So is Steven. But I guarantee all three of us, we're always learning. We're always constantly looking at the next
Oh,
thing.
absolutely.
I mean, it's just I'm immersed in this every day, and all three of us are. And I know I'm speaking for you guys. Where we're like always like looking, well, what's going on? Always something new. Always, how can we improve? How can we get better? How can we do this? I'm always testing new. I mean, that's how it is. But that's the fun of it. And if you're really committed to it, you just start getting. And then Jeff, you raise a very good point. You get to a point where at least you feel some confidence that you can go out there and do it, and then you build on that. That doesn't stop. You just keep doing it, building, and I'm never going to get to the finish line. It's always going to be going down the road and see what's down here, whatever. And that's what's really fun for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that you guys are talking about this, because I'm thinking about something unrelated to video that I've been doing now for 2 years. I am probably the world's worst bass player, but I love it. And I need to do a lot more with it. I'm very intimidated. I don't want to play around other people, but I just dearly think it's the coolest thing ever. But it's that fire under me is what's making me want to do more. And you find that you'll find that passion will carry you through a lot of times when fear wants to step in the way and say, "Hey, you don't have anything to offer in this area. You may not be good enough to do LinkedIn Live, or, look at what this person's doing." But we all know that you're not supposed to, compare your starting moment with somebody else's finishing moment. And a lot of times that's what we do. We get intimidated. We see so many great people, Sean Cannell and so many other greats, Pete McKinnon, doing these amazing videos and shows. And you think, oh my gosh, I could never do that. Well, the reality is maybe you were never meant to do that, but you can still reach your world and your audience by being you in a way that they can relate to. And I think if you can capture that, you're going to find yourself eons ahead of where you think you could ever go anyway.
Absolutely. Guys, it's been fantastic. This show, like I said, it's going to be a blur. Half hour, we're already through it. We appreciate everybody coming out, but I do want to touch base with a comment in the LinkedIn chat. Somebody had asked about microphones. Really quick, if you guys can bear with us another 2 minutes. I know we try to stay on a half hour, but I think this is important. We want a community engagement. The question came out about what about a microphone overhead when we were talking about the microphones being off access and things like that. And I think I could speak for everybody here, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but every microphone has its own application. There's no right or wrong use case. You got to find out what your environment that you're in. Obviously, if you're in a windy environment, you're not going to put something that has, a condenser microphone without some kind of filter on it that's going to protect it from the wind. You might be better with like a dynamic microphone or a lav mic or something along those lines. So I think we want to stress that, and I don't know if you guys agree with that. I want to stress that each microphone has its own application. You got to find out. I'm in a studio. I have acoustic foam set up, so I have a little bit more control over my audio and how it sounds through the microphone. But there's really no right or wrong answer of what you want to use. It's how you want to use it and if it works for your application. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Oh,
Go
I
ahead,
do.
Marty.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, I do. And along with that, I mean, microphones for every studio setting, every physical setting, but also for your voice. I mean, if you wanted to, there might be microphones like a PR40 is good for certain types of voices versus another type of microphone. It's almost like trying on shoes. It's going to fit different people different ways. The other thing I think that question was referring to is, if you want to use a mic out of sight, he might be referring to a shotgun mic, where a shotgun mic is designed to zero in on a voice from a distance, and it's a very narrow pickup range. You'll see shotgun mics used in filmmaking where they'll put them on boom poles, and they'll put them out of camera range, and they're very focused on and they have to direct them right toward the person's mouth to pick up the voice. These mics here, dynamic mics, they're directional, they're cardioid, very defined pickup pattern. But again, I almost think of it as like shoes, where it's different shoes for different purposes, and it's very individual. So, Jeff, I'm not sure if you feel the same way about that, or
Oh, absolutely. I think you hit it right on the head, Marty. I mean, it's, the one thing is, if you were going to put a microphone above, you'd have to have a reason for that. I think in my thinking is, so why would you want to put it there if you could get it closer? One of the things you have to understand is right now my microphone's about 8 inches away from my mouth. The farther away it is, you're now introducing more of an opportunity for more peripheral noise, the washer and dryer, or cars that pass, an airplane, whatever it might be. Air conditioning is probably the number one culprit. So if you can get the microphone closer, you can turn the recording level down farther and still have a very nice crystal clear sound. But what you're doing is you're shrinking that recording sphere down to where you're not really letting these other things have any dominance. And I think there's a value in that if you can figure out a way to set it up the way you want. That's how I would do it.
yeah, lowering that noise floor. If you don't have
Yep.
to raise the gain too much, lowering the noise floor, and you get a little proximity effect, come in a little closer, and you block out all. Yeah, I completely agree.
And
Technique has a lot to do with it
I was
too.
just gonna say, so in the future, we're gonna get a little bit more into this, talk about noise gates and things like that, compression, because a lot of people, as you guys know, over compress audio and make it sound muddy. And they've got these really expensive microphones, and they're really not setting things. So we want to get into that in the future, camera positioning, all different types of things. So that's something that we're going to cover at a different time. But we appreciate everybody coming out, guys. Jeff, thanks so much for jumping in and joining us. We're definitely going to have you back
Oh, no
on.
problem. It's fun. I'd love to do it anytime.
Absolutely. Wealth of knowledge there. And also, Marty, thank you for rushing and getting through your.
No, I'm glad I made it.
But guys, make sure you follow the Telestream LinkedIn channel, because we go live every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern here, as well as the Telestream Wirecast page on Facebook, as well as the Telestream Tube YouTube account. Go like them, go follow them, go subscribe. You'll be able to watch these. I'll get these uploaded here this afternoon. And so make sure you guys tune in. And like I said, we're going to get these podcasted so you guys can download them at a later date. If you have any suggestions of what you'd like to see, leave comments in there. We go back after the show's over. If we didn't get your comment, we go back and we check it out, and we read it, and we answer it if we didn't answer it on screen. So please leave a comment there if there's something specific that's you're struggling with live video and social media. Please leave a comment there, and we'll definitely check it out. The three of us will go back and we'll look at it and see if that's something we can address on another show. So again, guys, I really appreciate everybody coming out. It's been a great time, as it always is, and we'll see you next week.